I took the maze job because I needed a break from computers and customer calls. Fresh air, simple tasks, and pay that covered rent sounded perfect. By October, I'd clock in, grab my radio and headlamp, shove a few wristbands and the maze map in my pocket, and help people get safely lost. The maze sat on the back part of a family farm outside Peoria. Mr. and Mrs. K ran it all. Hay rides, cider, goats, and the 6-acre corn maze that was supposed to be the main draw. I liked the job. The nights smelled like dirt and sugar, and my coworkers were local teens who still found everything funny. We got the usual chaos. Lost kids, dads who thought they could shortcut through the corn, couples sneaking off for privacy. Nothing I couldn't handle. It was a calm night when I first saw him. I was standing on a hay bale to count groups heading in when I noticed movement cutting diagonally through the rows. Across the pattern, not along it. Our paths never crossed that way. The maze layout was symmetrical. No shortcuts, no diagonals. But this figure moved confidently, like someone who knew a private route. "You see that?" I asked the kid handling wristbands. He squinted. "Where?" "There, by Station 2, cutting straight through." He shrugged. "Probably Ed checking irrigation." But Ed didn't walk like that. Ed lumbered. This one glided. Before I could say more, the figure melted back into the corn, swallowed by noise and laughter. That night, I brushed it off. The maze messes with depth. Lights flicker, sounds bounce. Easy to imagine someone where no one is. Still, when my shift ended, I drove home uneasy. The pattern on the printed maze map, the perfect lines, kept flashing in my head. There was no diagonal anywhere. The next evening started the same. Wind in the stalks, kids laughing, radios chirping with lost and found chatter. Around 9, as the last sunlight faded, I saw him again. Same shape, tall, quiet, watching. He wasn't walking one of our paths, he was between them. "Anyone patrolling West Side?" I asked through the radio. Static, then voices. "I'm at cider stand. Hayride. Parking lot." No one. I scanned the exit line and saw him again. Standing by the emergency gate, head slightly turned toward the maze, still as a scarecrow. "Sir, wristband, please," I called. He lifted his hand halfway, then dropped it and walked back into the field, through the wall of corn, not the exit. That's when it clicked. This wasn't a guest. He was entering from outside, and no one noticed but me. I started testing it. On breaks, I watched different exits, and each time, he reappeared somewhere new. Once near the snack trailer, another time near the bridge. He never lingered, just drifted in and out like he owned secret access. The next night, I took the ATV and drove the outer berm, a dirt ridge we used for staff patrols. My headlamp swept the field, splitting it into glinting gold and creeping dark. Halfway down the west side, I spotted a narrow slit through the stalks, parallel to the maze path, like someone had carved a private hallway. Leaves were cleanly bent, not trampled, and at the base, fresh boot prints. "Copy," I said into my radio. "Got a cut corridor west side, definitely not natural." "Hold there," came Mr. K's calm reply. I switched off the ATV and listened. The night went still. Then faintly, a single step. Not in the maze, outside in that hidden track. I turned my headlamp back on, nothing but corn. The prints looked crisp, edges sharp. He'd been there minutes ago. "Shut it down," Mr. K said finally. "Lights on." Everyone out. Floodlights thumped to life. Families groaned but filed out. I scanned every face leaving, hoping the man was among them. If he was, he blended perfectly. As the crowd thinned, I heard it again. A quick, heavy step just beyond the lights. Then silence. That's all. A single sound that shouldn't have been there. We found no one. The next morning, I walked the west path. The private corridor was still visible, and at one of the blind corners, Someone had tied a piece of twine across the path at waist height, like a snare. I cut it down, stood there staring at it, and realized whoever this was, they weren't trying to spook anyone. They were planning something. We told ourselves it was a prank. We knew it wasn't. After that, the farm added new rules. 2 people per patrol, headcams. No one entered the maze alone. Still, each night felt a little different, quieter somehow, like the field was waiting. 3 nights later, Ross radioed me from inside. Station 5, hearing tearing sounds west side. Copy, I said, already heading for the berm. The sound came and went, like someone dragging a stick along the stalks. When I reached the ridge, I killed my light to listen. My heartbeats matched the rhythm of the wind. Then the corn shifted 3 rows ahead of me, too evenly to be wind, too low to be a deer. I lifted my lamp and caught the faintest ripple of movement between stalks. No figure, just the trail shaking like someone retreating fast down that hidden lane. I raised my whistle and blew 3 times, our shutdown signal. Every guest froze. Radios crackled. Mr. K's voice came through. All staff, guide to exits. By the time backup reached me, the trail was empty again. But the Fresh Prince told the same story. He'd been right there. We closed early, refunded tickets, and called the sheriff. A deputy came, took notes, and told us to keep an eye out. That's small town, for we can't do much unless he grabs someone. Days passed without sightings. Then, Wednesday morning, before opening, I arrived early to check the berm. The corn stood tall enough to block the sun. I stepped forward and felt something catch at my shin. Another twine line, this one tied between the fence posts on the staff side, meaning he'd been outside the maze, walking where only we went. I radioed it in, untied the string, and pocketed it. For the first time, I noticed how still everything was. No wind, no insects. Just the low creak of the metal gate behind me. I stayed there longer than I needed to, pretending to check the fence while trying not to look over my shoulder. That evening, I volunteered for berm patrol. Headlamp, whistle, radio. Simple tools. At first, all I heard was laughter from the maze. Families, flashlights, the sound of corn brushing coats. But around 9, that laughter thinned out. Groups moved on, and for a moment, there was nothing but the corn breathing with the wind. Then 2 soft taps, like someone's boot toe hitting dirt impatiently. "West berm," I whispered. "Possible movement near Station 5. Ross answered, "Holding group? Want me to check?" "Negative. Stay put." I crouched, aiming my lamp across the ridge. The corn nearest me bent slightly. A gentle bow and rebound, as if brushed by a passing shoulder. I couldn't see a figure, but I knew someone was there, using the same hidden hallway as before. I started the ATV, not to chase, but to make noise. To let whoever was out there know I wasn't alone. The motor's noise filled the dark, and after a few seconds, the leaves went still again. We didn't catch anyone that night. We never would. By the weekend, the maze went back to normal. Families came, kids screamed, and the season wound toward Halloween. But even when nothing happened, I couldn't stop the habit of scanning the corners. Once you've seen movement against the map, you stop trusting maps. Our final cleanup day came early November. The corn was brittle now, half collapsed under frost. I walked the berm one last time, partly for closure, partly because I couldn't help myself. The private corridor still marked the field. A pale scar where stalks couldn't stand again. I followed it to the fence line. Beyond it lay the tree break and the ditch, perfect cover for someone tall enough to move unseen. Standing there, I realized how easy it would have been for him to watch everything from that shadowed gap. Years later, I still think about that fall. The maze runs every year, safer now. Extra lights, cameras, patrols. They call me sometimes to consult. I tell them what to look for. Clean breaks in the corn, waist-high knots of twine, paths that run parallel instead of crossing. People assume fear comes from not knowing where you are. But working there taught me the real fear is knowing someone else knows exactly where you'll be and waiting for you to turn that corner. We told ourselves it was a prank. We knew it wasn't. Perimeter checks matter. Your map isn't their map. I'd been working from home for months, drowning in spreadsheets and microwave dinners. So when I found a home swap app that let people trade places for the weekend, it sounded like an easy reset. No hotels, no crowds, just real homes and real people. That's how I met Kurt and Dana. Their cabin in the Smoky Mountains looked perfect. Wooden deck, warm light through the windows, forest views. They wrote, "We're heading into town this weekend. It's all yours. Enjoy the quiet." They seemed normal. Verified profiles, glowing reviews. I traded my Nashville apartment with them for 2 nights and hit the road early Friday. When I finally turned down the gravel road, I caught that fall smell: pine, smoke, and wet leaves. The cabin stood ahead exactly like the photos. Cozy, quiet, welcoming. Only one thing felt off. Their SUV was still parked by the porch. Inside, the place was warm. Too warm. 2 coats hung by the door, damp at the sleeves. A half-full mug sat on the coffee table, and a skillet on the stove still had flecks of tomato sauce. They'd told me they left an hour ago, but the house said otherwise. "Hello?" I called. Nothing. I walked through the rooms, expecting to find someone packing. The bathroom mirror was fogged. A towel was twisted on the floor. I told myself they'd left in a hurry. Maybe forgot to clean. I texted them, "Hey, just arrived. Place looks great, thanks again." The 3 dots appeared, then vanished. No reply. I unpacked a few things, trying not to think too much. Then came a low thump from underneath the floorboards. The listing mentioned a basement. I found the door. Small, near the kitchen stairs, locked with a simple latch. I crouched to listen. Nothing but a faint hiss through the vent, like air moving through pipes. Another sound, a soft click like metal against wood from the other side. I backed up, half laughing to myself. Old cabin, new noises. But deep down, something didn't add up. I turned on the TV just for background noise, but every few minutes, the floor creaked beneath me. One step, pause, another. I told myself it was the heating ducts expanding. Then the tablet on the coffee table buzzed. Thermostat. Living room adjusted to 73 degrees. Weird, I hadn't touched it. I grabbed it, and it opened to a smart home control screen. 2 thermostats showed up, main floor and basement. The basement one was active, set to 68 degrees. I tapped it. The app locked me out, asking for a password. That's when I noticed a faint red light glowing from the bookshelf. A camera. Small, subtle, like one of those baby monitor lenses. The tablet pinged again. Someone had just accessed the camera remotely. I picked it up and pointed it toward the wall. Then a text came through from Kurt. "Hey, everything okay?" I replied, "Yeah, but did you forget to turn off your camera system?" No answer. 10 minutes later, another thump from below. Louder this time. I stood still, staring at the basement door. I texted again, "You guys sure you left? Sounds like someone's still downstairs." No reply. I called the Home Swap app's helpline. The rep sounded calm. "If you feel unsafe, step outside and call local authorities." I hung up and grabbed my bag. I wasn't panicking, just done being polite. As I turned toward the front door, I heard a muffled creak. The basement latch moved. Not a lot. Just enough to make that tiny sound doors make when pressure changes on the other side. I walked faster. Out the door, down the steps, my keys were shaking in my hand. The forest was still. The fog had thickened. I threw my bag into the car and opened the door. Then my phone buzzed again. Another text from Kurt. "Everything's fine, don't worry about the basement." No punctuation this time, no smiley face, just those words. I didn't text back. I started the car and put it in reverse. The headlights swept the porch. That's when I saw the door. Wide open, and a man standing halfway up the stairs, barefoot, watching me. I couldn't see his face well in the light, just the shape of him, tall and stiff. I slammed the gear shift into drive and tore down the road. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone trying to call 911, but the signal was gone again. No service in the valley. I drove until I saw a diner with a neon sign and pulled in. My first coherent thought was to call the sheriff. 2 deputies met me there 20 minutes later. I explained everything. The open door, the text, the camera, the people. They exchanged looks I couldn't read. "We'll head up and check it out," one said. "You can follow us if you want." I did, though every instinct screamed not to. The cabin looked calm when we got there. Porch light on, no movement inside. The deputies knocked, announced themselves, then opened the door. The warmth hit us first. That same trapped heat. But now, everything was spotless. No mugs, no coats, no skillet on the stove, no fog in the bathroom. The basement door was closed, locked again. The deputies went down with flashlights. I waited upstairs, staring at the empty coffee table where the tablet had been. When they came back up, one of them said, "There's a bed down there, made up. Looks like someone's been living here, but no one's around." Before I could answer, headlights swept across the porch. A silver SUV pulled in, the same one I'd seen when I arrived. Kurt and Dana stepped out, calm as ever, smiling. "Oh, thank God," the woman said, walking right up to us. "We were so confused. She showed up before we'd finished leaving." The deputies asked for clarification. She explained, cheerfully, that there'd been a mix-up. They'd forgotten a few things before heading out and were just coming back to grab them. I said, "You told me you'd left hours ago." She laughed like I was being dramatic. "Oh, must have been autocorrect. You know how that goes." Her husband just stood there, holding his hands behind his back. The officers looked between us. "Seems like a miscommunication," one said. "No harm done." They took a quick statement, told me to stay elsewhere for the night, and left. When I turned to leave, something on the table caught my eye. A folded note. "Sorry for the inconvenience. Please don't mention the basement." I shoved it in my pocket and left without looking back. I checked into a motel down the highway and stayed up till dawn. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. By morning, I filed a report through the app, attached screenshots of the texts, and described everything. The rep promised an investigation. 2 days later, the listing was gone. No trace of Kurt and Dana. Their profile picture messages deleted. A week later, I got an email from the app apologizing for the inconvenience and refunding my credits. That was it. No explanation. No confirmation of who they were. I started to wonder if the cabin was even theirs. 2 months later, I got a promotional email from the app. "Find your next getaway." I clicked out of habit. There it was. Same cabin, same photos, same yellow glow through the windows, but listed under new names. Kelsey and Mark. I flagged it again. The listing vanished a day later. I called the app, furious. The support rep just said, "Thank you for bringing it to our attention." No answers. Just a corporate tone that didn't care what I'd seen. Sometimes when I replay that weekend, I wonder what would have happened if I'd gone down those stairs. If I'd ignored that feeling and opened the basement door. Because the more I think about it, the less I believe it was a misunderstanding. The timing, the text delays, the heat still running in the basement. It all felt rehearsed, like they'd done it before. Maybe the app wasn't the trap. Maybe the swap was. They said they'd left for the weekend, but they hadn't left at all. It's been 3 years. And now, when friends brag about cheap weekend swaps or cozy Airbnbs, I smile and tell them to make sure the owners actually left. Because sometimes people don't move out. They just move downstairs. I spent most of that fall hiking alone. It started as an escape from a cramped apartment, a way to feel something other than recycled air. Every overlook felt like a prize at the end of a long week. 5 minutes of peace, a couple photos, and a drive home under orange light. That Saturday was one of those perfect mid-October days where the Shenandoah Valley looks unreal. Reds and golds blending into each other, air cool enough to wake you up, but not enough to sting. I'd already hit 2 trails and was on my way to one last overlook before heading home. When I pulled in, the spot was empty. A low stone wall ran along the edge, cracked and mossy, with a sign warning not to feed wildlife. I parked, grabbed my mini tripod, and clipped my phone into it. Timer on. 3 beeps. Snap. I wasn't doing anything fancy, just a photo for myself, proof that I'd been there. The wind rustled the trees below, and somewhere up the slope a crow complained before going quiet again. That's when the sedan pulled in. It eased slowly off the main road, a dark blue 4-door, and parked 2 spaces away, headlights off. The driver didn't get out. The engine kept running. Nothing about it screamed danger at first. People stop at overlooks all the time. But something about how they parked, nose toward the road, angle sharp for a fast exit, stuck in my head. I looked back down at my phone screen and caught the faint reflection of the car behind me. The driver was slouched low, barely visible. When I turned around to check, they sat up straight again. I told myself maybe they were eating or shy, but every time I faced away, they sank out of view again. I kept shooting pictures, pretending not to notice. The valley looked perfect in the late light. Clouds stretched like thin ribbons, but I couldn't focus on the view anymore. When I bent to adjust the tripod, the sedan rolled forward a few feet. I heard a quiet, creeping crunch of gravel. I turned to face it directly. The driver froze. I held my phone up again, pretending to line up another shot. In the reflection, the driver's seat was empty. But I hadn't heard a door open, and the car hadn't moved. Looking back, I think that's when my body realized what my mind wouldn't admit. I told myself it was nothing, that I was overthinking. But the longer I stood there, the more weird it felt. Whoever was in that car was timing their movements to mine. I decided to pack up and leave. Walking straight to the driver's side meant passing the space between us. Instead, I circled wide, keeping my car between me and that person. I tried to look casual, like someone wrapping up a photo session. The sedan rolled forward again, closing part of the gap. I unlocked my car, got in on the passenger side, and slid across the seat to the driver's side. My heart was hammering, but my hands moved like they knew what to do. I started the engine and locked the doors. The sedan idled. Then it edged forward until its front bumper was almost touching my rear one, blocking me. I texted my friend Liv a location pin and typed fast, "Scenic overlook, weird car behind me, lights off, won't leave." Her reply came almost instantly, "Call me, now." Before I could, I hit my horn, one long blaring note that echoed down the mountainside. The driver jerked upright, startled, then stilled again. The horn stayed pressed until my arm ached. Liv texted again, calling the ranger station, "Stay in your car." The sedan edged closer, then turned its front wheels left, trying to angle across the center line like it wanted to trap me in the pull-off. That was it. I floored it. My car lurched forward, cutting across the narrow space in front of the sedan before it could move fully into the lane. In the mirror, the sedan didn't follow. It just drifted back to the wall, like nothing had happened. A few bends down, I saw a Ranger cruiser, parked on the shoulder. Relief hit me so hard I almost laughed. I pulled in behind him, hazards on, still shaking. The Ranger rolled down his window mid-notepad, clearly not expecting company. "There's a car up the road," I blurted. "Blue sedan, lights off, been watching me, tried to block me in." He didn't waste time. He flipped on his roof lights and gestured for me to follow. We turned around and headed back up the mountain. The overlook came into view again. My car's tire marks still visible. The sedan was parked in the same spot. The Ranger parked sideways, blocking the exit. He got out calmly with his hand hovering near his belt. He approached the driver's window. No movement. "Sir," he said, "roll your window down, please." Nothing. He repeated it, louder. Finally, the glass hummed halfway down. The driver was a man, late 30s maybe, eyes hidden by glare. The Ranger's tones stayed neutral. "This area closes at dusk. Mind explaining why you're sitting here with your lights off?" The man smiled. "Didn't want to ruin anyone's pictures," he said. "License and registration." The man handed over the license. When asked for registration, he said it was in the trunk. "Stay where you are," the Ranger said, circling around. He tapped at the license plate. A dark, tinted cover warped the numbers. "Illegal. You'll need to remove this," he said. The driver didn't move, didn't argue, just stared forward like the conversation wasn't about him. The Ranger read the plate from an angle, wrote it down, and said, "Let's go. You're leaving the park. Now." The man nodded, started the car, drove off slow as if nothing unusual had happened. The Ranger came back to me. "You did the right thing," he said. "That cover makes the plate unreadable to cameras. We'll file a report." I asked what it meant. He sighed. "Could be nothing. Could be someone avoiding tolls. Could be worse. You did right by not engaging." I followed him down the mountain until we reached a more populated area. He told me to stop by the station if I wanted to make a written statement, but it wasn't required. "Next time," he said, "if anyone shadows you with lights off, drive straight to a public stop. Don't wait to see what they want." I nodded. Was it just me? Did he seem like he'd done that before? The Ranger didn't answer. "Drive safe," he said, and left it at that. I pulled into a crowded lookout later, near a gift shop and a row of parked RVs. My phone buzzed with messages from Liv. "Ranger called me. Are you safe? What happened? Do you need me to drive out?" I texted back. "All good now, just creeped out. Heading home soon." While I typed, I kept looking at every car that passed. For hours afterward, I couldn't stop checking the rear view. I kept replaying how he only moved when I wasn't looking. I'd always told myself the world was mostly good, that solo hiking just meant being aware and careful. But it hit me how small that overlook really was. One open patch of road, no cameras, no signal, and one stranger's decision away from something worse. 2 days later, the Ranger emailed me a short report. Vehicle identified, local address verified, no outstanding warrants. That was all. I reread that line over and over. No outstanding warrants. As if that meant safe. I went back to work Monday, sat at my desk scrolling through the photos from that day. The overlook shots came out beautiful. Golden leaves, clear sky, the faint haze of the valley below. But behind me, in 2 of them, I could see the blurred outline of that sedan. Parked just far enough back, the windshield looked black. Every other picture from that fall feels peaceful. Those 2 just feel off. I haven't deleted them, but I've never shown them to anyone. Now, when friends talk about solo trips or quiet photo spots, I tell them this: if a car pulls in and keeps its lights off, leave. Don't be polite. Don't wait to confirm your gut. Scenic is better with a witness. Because up there, under all that beauty, one stranger can turn silence into something else entirely. It started as an innocent invitation. He was in my American Lit seminar. Quiet, thoughtful, one of those people who spoke rarely but always said something worth remembering. When he mentioned his family's lake house in the Adirondacks and said I should come up to see the colors, it sounded harmless. We'd only talked a few times after class about midterms and favorite authors. The invite felt mature, like the kind of weekend adults in movies took before life got complicated. I told myself it wasn't a date, just two classmates enjoying fall before the weather turned. The drive up was beautiful. Every mile deeper into the mountains felt like leaving the semester behind. My GPS signal blinked in and out, but I still found the narrow dirt road lined with birch and maple. He'd texted earlier, running late, class ran over, make yourself at home. The cabin looked straight out of a postcard. Cedar siding, green trim, a small dock at the water's edge. Mist hovered above the lake. For a moment, I thought I'd really stepped into a postcard. The front door was unlocked. When I walked up to the front door, I noticed it was slightly open. Not much, just enough that it didn't latch. "Hello?" I called. No answer. I pushed it open, expecting to see maybe a cleaning service or maintenance guy finishing up. Instead, what I saw made me stop in the doorway. There were wet footprints across the living room floor, bare feet leading from the sliding glass doors toward the hallway. The boards were still shiny with water. "Eli?" I called again. Still nothing. The house smelled of sweat and old beer. A lamp was on in the corner. Music played somewhere deeper in the house. Every hair on my arms lifted. I stepped inside slowly, my sneakers squeaking against the wet wood. My plan was just to check the main room, call Eli, and get the hell back to my car. The dining table had 2 plates set out, both used. Forks, crumbs, an open bottle of wine, half gone. Someone had been there recently. I pulled out my phone, trying to text him. "Hey, are you sure no one's at the house? Door was open and lights are on." Before I could hit send, a sound came from the hallway. Something wet, like a heel slipping against wood. Then, footsteps. Slow. Bare. I froze where I stood. A man stepped into view. He wasn't Eli. He wasn't anyone I recognized. He was completely naked, mud streaked up his legs, hair hanging wild, pupils blown wide like he hadn't slept in days. His chest rose and fell fast, shallow, like an animal cornered. For a second, we both just stared. Then he grinned, this twitchy, unnatural stretch of his mouth, and took a step toward me. "Who are you?" I blurted. He looked at me like he hadn't understood, then bolted, straight at me. I screamed and ran for the door, nearly slipping on the wet prints as he charged down the hall behind me. His feet slapped the wood, loud, fast, uneven. He laughed, actually laughed. I burst outside, heart hammering so hard I could barely breathe, and stumbled down the steps to my car. My hands shook as I yanked the door open and dove inside, slamming it shut behind me. He hit the glass a second later, face smeared against it, eyes wild, drool on his chin. He started banging on the window with both fists, shouting something I couldn't make out. His skin was so pale it almost glowed. I fumbled for the keys, dropped them, grabbed them again. My brain just stopped working. The car wouldn't start. My hands were slick with sweat. The key kept missing the slot. He banged harder, each hit rattling through the whole frame. For some reason, he never tried the handle. Just kept slamming the flat of his hands against the glass, smearing water and dirt across it. I remember thinking, if he figures it out, if he touches that handle, I'm dead. I pressed myself against the driver's seat, shaking, whispering, please, 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 as I jammed the key again and again. Finally, the engine roared to life. I threw it in reverse so hard I nearly hit the porch railing. He screamed, high-pitched, almost joyful, and jumped back. I shifted to drive, floored it. For a split second, I saw him in the rearview mirror, still naked, still grinning, chasing until the trees swallowed him. I didn't stop. Not for stop signs, not for my phone buzzing. Nothing. The road twisted downhill for miles before I finally spotted a wooden sign. Ranger Station, 1.2 miles. I turned in so fast my tires squealed. 2 rangers were outside talking by a truck when I pulled up, still shaking so badly I could barely get words out. There's a man at the lake house. He's naked. He chased me, I gasped. Which property? I handed them my phone with the address. One of them recognized it right away. That's the old Dwyer cabin, he said, grabbing his coat. We've had trouble there before. They told me to wait inside while they drove out. I sat in the small wooden lobby, still in my mud-splattered sneakers, hugging myself and staring at the reflection of the dark trees through the window. Every time I blinked, I saw his face again, pressed against the glass. They came back about 40 minutes later. The older ranger leaned down next to me. He's not there now, but we found clothes, empty bottles, drug paraphernalia. Looks like someone's been squatting. You said you were invited? I nodded weakly and showed them Eli's texts. Call him, the younger one said. Let's clear this up. So I did. When Eli picked up, he sounded cheerful. Hey, you made it there already? Eli, I said, voice trembling. There's someone in your house. A pause. Then confusion. No one's there. My cousin sometimes helps out. He stopped mid-sentence. Wait, he said quietly. What did he look like? I told him. Tall, thin, dirty blonde hair, about mid-30s. Eli swore under his breath. That's Ryan, my cousin. He's not supposed to be there. He's got issues, all right? He uses. I just sat there trying to process that. He kept talking fast, words tumbling over each other. I thought he was in rehab. I swear I never would have sent you there if I knew. The ranger took the phone from me, introduced himself, and told Eli they'd handle it from here. They filed an incident report, gave me a number to call for updates, and told me I could stay the night in the bunk cabin behind the station. I didn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd see the man's silhouette in the window. His grin, the sound of his hands pounding against the glass. The next morning, Eli drove up himself, pale and sick-looking. He apologized over and over, offered to pay for my gas, even cried a little. He said his cousin had a history of psychotic breaks and would sometimes disappear for weeks to get high in the woods. Apparently, the lake house was his usual hiding spot. The police later confirmed it. They found Ryan 2 towns over, naked again, wandering along the highway and mumbling nonsense. He didn't even remember the night before. I should have felt relieved, but I didn't. Knowing why it happened didn't undo what it felt like. The feeling of being hunted, the smell of wet wood and old beer, the sound of bare feet slapping against the floor as I ran. Those details stuck like splinters. It's been years, and I still can't stand the sound of someone walking barefoot on wood floors. It takes me right back to that moment. People always say they'd know when danger's coming. They imagine they'd fight or scream or have a plan. I didn't. I just froze and ran. And even now, when someone invites me somewhere secluded, even for something as harmless as a weekend getaway, I find myself hesitating. Because I can still see those wet footprints leading down the hall, still hear his laughter behind me, and still feel the weight of that moment I thought my car wouldn't start. when I realized just how close I was to never leaving that house at all. When you step into a place that feels wrong, listen to it. Doors don't open themselves, floors don't stay wet without reason. And sometimes what's waiting inside isn't a ghost. It's something worse. Someone real. Always check before you enter. And if something feels off, leave. Curiosity isn't worth being right. Our town lives for October. If you've ever been to Burlington in the fall, you know everything smells like cider, fried dough, and damp leaves. I'd volunteered at the fall festival since I was a teenager, and by now I basically ran power, passes, and problems. We set up on the town green the first Monday of the month. I had a clipboard, a neon vest, and too much coffee. By noon, kids were chasing each other between booths, music from the accordion busker was echoing across the lake, and cider steam curled through the air. It was chaos wrapped in flannel, and I loved every bit of it. The first time I noticed him, I thought he was just another tourist filming. Hoodie, ball cap, phone angled upright. He stood near the bandstand, lens pointed right at me. When I asked him to move a few feet, he smiled, quiet, polite, and did. No big deal. But the next day, he was back. Different jacket, same cracked corner phone case. I was coiling an extension cord when I caught his reflection in a metal sign, camera still pointed right at me. He didn't look away, just kept the phone up like I was part of the attraction. By Friday, it had turned into a pattern. I'd spot him or someone who looked just enough like him. Every day. Different hat, different spot, same cracked case. When I told my friend Jess, she shrugged, probably just filming the fair. Yeah, I said, forcing a laugh. Guess I'm really photogenic when I'm taping down cables. But I started catching that feeling, like his lens followed me even when he wasn't in sight. Saturday brought rain, the steady kind that turns the grass into mud and makes the smell of popcorn stronger. We opened anyway. People came with umbrellas and dogs in sweaters. And then I saw the guy again near the kettle corn line. Every time I looked directly, the camera dipped. Every time I turned away, it rose again. I told Jess, she said she'd mention it to the parks director, but no one likes making a scene over some guy filming. So I kept working, pretending not to notice. Sunday night was closing. The green looked tired, like it was exhaling after a long week. Booths were half-packed, strings of lights still glowing under the mist. I was doing final cleanup, contractor bag in one hand, trash grabber in the other, when I saw it. A phone, sitting on a bench near the oak tree, screen dark, cracked corner. At first, I figured someone dropped it. Happens all the time. But when I picked it up, the screen lit automatically, showing a photo. Me. Unloading boxes from the supply van the day before, taken from behind a tree. The lock screen shifted through pictures. Me sweeping near the cider booth, walking to my car, even one of me unlocking the side door of my apartment. That's when the air around me changed. Everything. Crickets, wind, distant chatter, went quiet. I turned the phone face down and walked straight to my car. I called the non-emergency police line. I found a phone, I said, voice shaking just enough to give me away. There are pictures of me, from all week. They sent an officer to meet me by the gazebo. She showed up fast, a calm woman who looked like she'd seen plenty worse. I handed her the phone through the car window. She pressed the power button, and even in the blue light from the screen, I saw her expression change. "You found this here? On that bench." She nodded. "Stay in your car. If someone's tracking it, they might come back for it." She walked the edge of the green with her flashlight, scanning the trees. Another cruiser rolled up. 10 minutes passed. Then I saw her returning, speaking something into the mic clipped to her vest. She leaned toward my window. "Whoever owns this just pinged it with 'Find my iPhone,'" she said. "Signal's moving along the tree line." I froze. "He's here?" She didn't answer directly. "Lock your doors." Then she turned, flashlight slicing through the dark toward the maples. From where I sat, I saw the beam flicker between trunks. Once it caught something, fabric maybe, then vanished. The second officer joined her, moving in wide arcs. My breath fogged the inside of my window. I heard it before I saw anything, the quick brush of a jacket against bark, then a figure crouched low, darting between the trees, heading toward the parking lot. "Police! Stop!" the officer shouted. The figure slipped deeper into the dark. My hand tensed over the horn, ready to blare, but something in me said, "Stay quiet." They followed him into the trees. I waited and waited. The minutes stretched thin. A third cruiser arrived, lights dimmed, and then a K9 unit. I could see flashes of movement, voices calling distances. "North edge. Check the lot." Then nothing. Finally, the first officer came back, hair damp from sweat or mist, maybe both. "He's gone," she said. "Signal drop near the lot. We'll patrol the area tonight." She handed me a card. "If you remember anything at all, call this number." I thought that would be the end of it. But 2 nights later, it wasn't. The police ran the phone number through their system. They told me the next day they'd found a man walking 3 blocks from my apartment. Hoodie up, carrying 3 phones. They booked him for trespassing and violation of probation. They didn't confirm if he was the only one. I kept working the festival the next year. People asked why I'd go back, and honestly, I didn't know how to explain it. Fear makes you either hide or double down. I chose the latter. The town added camera towers, new lighting, and a rule that no volunteer leaves alone after dark. They printed safety reminders in the orientation packets. If you're being recorded, move in pairs. Call police immediately. That part was mine. Still, the habit stuck. I check mirrors when I walk to my car. I keep a small alarm on my keychain. I call someone whenever I leave an event after dark, even if it's just Jess half asleep mumbling through the phone. And I think about what the officer said when she first looked at it. Proof doesn't always come with a face. She was right. You can catch someone, sure, but you never really catch the feeling that someone was watching you before you knew they existed. The next October, the fair came back, bigger than ever. I was there again. Vest, radio, same job, same cider smell. I laughed when the busker played his old accordion tune. I tied off cables and pretended everything was fine. But when the last night came and the booths went dark, I still felt it. That prickling at the base of the neck that says someone could be there. Maybe it's paranoia, or maybe the world just remembers. Either way, when I do my final sweep, I always look at that oak bench just to make sure it's empty. And every time I walk back to my car, I take someone with me. Because the scariest thing about that week wasn't the photos. It was realizing how easily someone can turn attention into possession. He didn't yell, didn't chase, didn't speak. He just watched. And now, every time I catch a phone raised in a crowd, some part of me wonders if it's happening again. If you thought the scariest part was realizing fall nights aren't as peaceful as they seem, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss the next scare, and tell me which story hit you hardest. And if you think working nights sounds calm and quiet, you haven't watched this channel enough. Click now to watch 4 disturbing night shift horror stories, because darkness doesn't care about business hours. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.